The following is a video uh, made by pointing a handheld camera at monitors over 2 months after an incident involving Sean Kaili at Hawaii Community Correctional Center. Since it is a handheld camera pointing at monitors, it is secondhand information and it's the same as hearsay evidence, which is not admissible during trial. This is the point at which the video begins, and as you can clearly tell, it's from a handheld camera. You can see the time stamp, time and date stamp on the monitor. So here, his gait is unsteady. He's resisting, and he goes down. He was on, and there's an intense struggle. First with two, and off and on three officers. Their objective is to get handcuffs on him so they can continue to move him to the housing. I want to point out a couple things here. First, I'm going to read directly from the indictment. As you're watching this, uh, one of the main charges was deprivation of rights under color of law. Um, and it says, on or about June 15, 2015, within the District of Hawaii, Jason Tagaloa, Craig Pinkney, and Jonathan Tom, the defendants, and Officer A, while acting under the color of law and while aiding and abetting one another, willfully deprived inmate 1 of the right secured and protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. Specifically, Tagaloa, Pinkney, Tom, and Officer A physically assaulted inmate 1 in HCCC's rec yard and failed to intervene to protect inmate 1 from being assaulted despite having the opportunity to do so. This offense resulted in bodily injury to inmate 1 and involved the use of dangerous weapons, eschewed feet, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 242 and 2. And there you just saw the, the, um, the use of the shoot foot as a weapon. And that's critical because this cannot be charged as a felony if no weapon is used. Now, whether a shoot foot used in the manner it was used in this incident uh, was was being used as a weapon is still not resolved within the courts. Uh, but let me read from you from guidelines directly from the Department of Justice in relation to the charge, the main charge of of the assault charge of an inmate. To prove a violation of 242, the government must prove each of the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt: that the defendant deprived a victim of a right protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, and number two, that the defendant acted willfully, and three, that the defendant was acting under color of law. A violation of 242 is a felony if one of the following conditions is met: the defendant used, attempted to use, or threatened to use a dangerous weapon, explosive, or fire. The victim suffered bodily injury. The defendant's action included attempted murder, kidnapping or attempted kidnapping, aggravated sexual abuse or attempted aggravated sexual abuse, or the crime resulted in death. Otherwise, the violation is a misdemeanor. Okay, now first, as you've been watching in this video, the officers were struggling. There was a lot of resistance. We cannot tell just by looking at the video the amount of resistance. Only the officers using their muscles against the force of the person resisting can know exactly what that felt like. So you have to get that information from them. We can only give a vague estimate, but two objects could be moving against each other with 500 pounds of pressure, and if they're equal pressure, there will be no movement. So you can't tell what the level of force that's being used. Now, but back to the 242, said that they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, it's debatable whether the shoot foot could be used, could be said to be a weapon. But even before that, what this video doesn't do, and it probably on purpose, is doesn't let you know what was going on prior. Why were they moving him? The charge says that they violated his rights, that they just did it for no reason at all, just because they felt like beating somebody up. And so two things are wrong with that already. Number one, uh, the person, there was a reason for them to move him. He was causing a disturbance with other inmates. Inmate safety was in jeopardy. Okay. His safety as well as the safety of other inmates. So they had to move him to someplace more secure. As they began to move him, he resisted. When he resisted, officers are allowed to use force to gain control, to subdue a person. Their objective was to put the handcuffs on, which they uh, ultimately were able to do. And as you can see, when they were able to get the handcuffs on, all use of force stopped. And then they moved him on his way and eventually got him into a cell. But as you'll see in a second, when we look at the video, even after he was handcuffed, he continued to resist as he's doing right now. So the first question in relation to the charge is, what is the evidence to support the charge? Remember, the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these officers engaged in an assault that constituted cruel and unusual punishment. You know, which usually means that the person is laying there defenseless, non-resistant, and they're beating the hell out of them. That's not what happened here. So how does he do that? What's the evidence? This is not the evidence. Now this is after thing they're continuing to move him. He's continuing to resist, but as you can tell, he's squirming, he's moving around, but the officers are not. Uh, they're just controlling him. They feel satisfied with their level of control. There's no need for additional use of force as was required earlier. And this is where it ends. And they can tell they're even trying to talk to him, de-escalate, calm him so they can get him into his cell. Now, if the state or the government wanted to use video evidence from these stationary surveillance cameras, and here this is a video from two monitors that came from two of the stationary cameras, they would have had to at that time separated out the whole shift so you could have the before, the during, and the after, anything involving the inmate and the officers. And then that would have to be identified as evidence, and the chain of custody would have to have started so that it can verify and confirm that the video is unaltered. Obviously, in this video, that's impossible. This was a video of a video that's been released to the public and is all over everywhere. So whatever video the prosecution has now, they can't even establish the source of it. As a matter of fact, the original memory card that was inside the camera disappeared shortly after this. But I'm going to get into more of that on the second video, where I'm going to break this down uh, in pieces to uh, really do a detailed analysis.